The storm is coming, but this isn't fear. This is opportunity. The end game of crypto finally in sight, aka enough yield to never have to sell your assets, your XRP, your HBAR, whatever it may be. These aren't just trades anymore. They're becoming income streams. Today's lineup of information is absolutely stacked. We saw mXRP launch. This is between Axelar and Midas. Midas has, individuals, actually all the individuals I think were previously at Goldman Sachs, and Axelar obviously from the interoperability standpoint. So we're literally talking about a yield bearing XRP. Ripple's DeFi, institutional grade DeFi roadmap, $1 billion plus stablecoin volume, native lending, zero knowledge and privacy. Hedera and Accenture bringing artificial intelligence governance on chain. Algorand's on-chain quests, over $100,000 in algo, luxury vacations, e-bikes, F1 races, all sorts of stuff, and it's free to participate. Circle launching Arc blockchain as USDC does $5.9 trillion in quarterly volume. BitGo filing for an IPO. $1.5 billion crypto liquidation that we just experienced. Constellation Network hitting milestones with 1,000 proofs for digital evidence in 1 week. This is a lot to get into, so I'm just going to hop right in. What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with you all today. Today's lineup is absolutely stacked. So we're going to start with the biggest headline for all the XRP holders out there, and that is that mXRP is live. You can go right here. We just did a pretty, I think it was like one of the first interviews that was done on mXRP. This is between Axelar and Midas. I want to preface, this is not a sponsored interview. I was reached out to do this interview, and of course, I like taking opportunities when those exist. So this was not paid for by Axelar, not paid for by Midas, or anybody for that matter. I will give you a word of caution. I am not a financial advisor. This is deeply in the weeds of different financial education here, but a really awesome interview, and I think that we have long needed kind of meaningful DeFi primitives on the XRP ledger. Now, obviously, this is floating through the EVM sidechain as well, but native XRP holders, essentially, if they want to participate, they can participate. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff in this. A liquid staked yield bearing token, mXRP, designed to kickstart XRPFi. I know that we say DeFi, but XRPFi, finance on the XRP ledger. For XRP holders, this could be game changing. Think of this almost like a high yield bearing savings account. Instead of selling your XRP, you could potentially stake it into different yield strategies that only the wealthy of wealthies, previously have had access into. I think that they're targeting around 8 to 10% yield, and they're targeting around $10 billion assets under management, like within a handful of months, which is pretty massive. This is one of the clear steps that we've seen, and this isn't just the XRPL, but for some context here, in this kind of never sell future narrative. I'll play a quick clip from Georgios, one of the co-founders at Axelar. If you want to check out this full interview, go and give at Genfinity.io a follow on X. And Midas XRP Dennis, this guy is kind of a wealth of knowledge too. This guy comes from Goldman Sachs. So you may want to pay attention here. And one thing that's interesting is they talk about perpetual buy pressure on XRP. So I wanted to mention briefly, because I put out a tweet. I'll give a shout out to Crypto Airy because she helped to make an introduction to actually do that interview. Again, I was not paid to do this to do this interview by anybody, but I chose to do it, and it's a pretty good interview. So if you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it. This comes out of XRP Soul. out of Korea. The infinite money glitch, mXRP becoming a perpetual buyer of XRP. Again, guys, I am not a financial advisor. Obviously, this is deeply in the weeds with financial education strategies, but on the back end of a tweet like this, the end game of, and this is my tweet, the end game of crypto is, earning enough yield to never have to actually sell your crypto. Your digital assets become sustainable income streams, not trades. I do think that this is kind of the ultimate promise of digital assets. At least this is my opinion. And I think, I'm not saying that this is definitively going to happen, but the more interviews that I've done in the past couple of years and this evolution that I've seen, I think it is a possible outcome that I am hopeful could potentially shake out down the line. When I say enough yield to never sell, I try to take a bunch of these interviews and I try to think of how something like agentic AI is going to tie in with crypto or just finance in general. I think the easiest way to understand crypto and the opportunity here is the normal people, you and me, of the world have historically either not had enough money to participate in certain things that high wealth, high net worth individuals have been able to participate into, or B, we didn't know how to do it. Or you can go C, D, E, and F as well. I think the beauty of crypto and what I think we're going to see happen is this merging of the traditional system and the crypto system. And just like Georgios was saying, from the example of Axelar, you're essentially going to have all these strategies that ultra high net worth people, pay tons of money to get into because they can't afford it. And they're able to essentially not sell their assets, but borrow against their assets and basically like pay their way through life just based on like yield. I do think that that is going to become a possibility for people. And I think that it's going to tie in AI. I think that it's going to tie in, we've talked, people in XRP community and Ripple have known for a while, like kind of how on-demand liquidity kind of path finds for liquidity for payments, right? We've heard that. I think it's going to be the same thing that happens for investment strategies. I think that you're going to be able to use AI agents and they're going to be able to path find across these different networks for high yield strategies or whatever strategies you want based on your level of risk. And you're going to be able to customize those strategies. And hopefully, as real world assets get tokenized, you're going to be able to own portions of, just like last week, maybe portions of a BlackRock fund or portions of a State Street fund and a crypto and whatever. I mean, you're literally going to be able to piecemeal strategies individually in the future. And I fervently believe that is, that's my hopeful future that we kind of have here. Because at the end of the day, like, I am not this is my opinion. I do not get comfortable when it comes to like, I'm going to sell my XRP because it went to X, Y, and Z price, or I'm going to sell HBAR because it went to X, Y, and Z price. I don't feel comfortable not holding those assets. I know that might be stupid because there's been bull and bear markets historically, but I think we're going to get to a point where the opportunities are so great that you're not necessarily going to have to sell. You can leverage your digital assets as all assets come on chain in unique ways, in structured ways, in programmable ways, leveraging different layers of technology. And you're going to be able to, hopefully sustain whatever level of living you want to sustain through your digital assets, just like rich people right now do with their normal assets that aren't crypto. So, anyways, enough of my ramble there. Ripple, this is going to be a longer video, it appears. Ripple just dropped their institutional DeFi roadmap for the XRP ledger, and it is also massive. Now, big numbers here. XRP ledger clearing $1 billion in monthly stablecoin volume. It's in the top 10 chains for real world assets. Institutional DeFi has officially scaled from pilots to billion-dollar flows. What's live now on the XRP ledger? And you've got credentialing, you have deep freeze, you have simulate, and you have XRPL upgrades, 2.5 and 2.6. Token escrow now applying to all assets, batch transactions, AMM v1.3, and permissioned DEX features. I guess most people care about what's coming soon, which is native lending, a native lending protocol that has pooled vaults and fixed term uncollateralized loans, AML and KYC gated. So you're not going to be able to launder money and you're going to have to dox yourself. But at the end of the day, that's going to happen across all of crypto regardless. I would say, and I'm imagining they're doing this through some, eventually they have plans for the zero knowledge stuff, because when I've interviewed David before, he's alluded to it. The goal here with all of this tech is to only know as much information as you need to about an individual for them to participate in something. AKA, right now, whenever you go to the doctor's office or a new doctor's office, you have to like give a drop of blood and your social security number to every single new doctor you ever see. Eventually, we're going to be moving away from that system, hopefully, and you're just going to have to provide the bare minimum amounts of information that you need to be able to comply with whatever you need to comply with, right? Makes sense. That's where we should be already in 2025. But anyways, AML KYC gated, this low cost credit rails for institutions. Also coming to XRP land is going to be zero knowledge privacy in Q1 of 2026. Confidential with zero knowledge proofs, private collateral compliance and auditability. XRPL EVM sidechain, Solidity apps are going to be bridged via Axelar and powered by eXRP. This is compliance first, decentralized finance at the protocol layer. If yield is the end game, Ripple is building the exact rails to get us all there. All right. Anyways, huge for XRP. I know I should probably do like separate videos, but I'm not going to because I've got other stuff to do today. All right. Hedera and artificial intelligence. We see this is a report coming out of the World Economic Forum in collaboration with Accenture. Hedera's Nilmini Rubin just represented at the WEF AI Governance Alliance with 600 plus global leaders. You can check out the full document right here. It's Advancing Responsible Artificial Intelligence, a playbook. What I find interesting within this is, this report is in collaboration with Accenture. We know that Hedera has deep ties to Accenture as well. The Hedera Foundation, Accenture, and Equity Lab integrating verifiable AI governance modules on Hedera. Now, you can go and do some deep digging into LinkedIn. I'm not going to show the guy's picture up here, but he's the managing director at Accenture. He basically gave a nod to this announcement as well when it came out back in June, which is always awesome to see individuals from these kind of traditional entities giving a nod to crypto and the technology and not the other way around. I think a lot of the times we see the crypto companies being like, hey, we're partnered with X, Y, and Z. It's really great. And I think that that's been more of a recent shift too, where you see an Accenture giving a shout out to, the relationship that they've developed within Hedera. But essentially, this is huge. I mean, this is verifiable AI governance. This is going to be able to give public sector and government organizations tamper-proof oversight of artificial intelligence systems using Hedera's consensus and token service. I'm assuming you guys know how big Accenture is as an entity and what they're baked into from the public and government sectors. And if not, please go and take a look at that. Accenture is building pricing plus ERP or enterprise resource planning integrations to make Hedera's AI governance solutions turnkey for public sector deployments. This is not hype. This is artificial intelligence runtime at scale. AKA Hedera is becoming not only the trust layer of the internet, but the trust layer of the digital economy and the trust layer of AI. Segment 4 here that we got for you today is a massive opportunity. And I will preface, Genfinity does have a media relationship with Algorand, so please do your own due diligence on anything here. But they just rolled out today ALGO land and its on-chain quests and unchained prizes. Now, I will say I've seen a huge amount of opportunities for people to participate into where they don't have to necessarily even spend money, but like there's a chance for them to win certain things. This is, I guess, under the context that I'm trying to present this to you guys. Yes, there's lots of quests. I'm sure some quests are trading and stuff. So I'm not advocating for doing stuff unless you guys do your own due diligence and decide to do that stuff. However, there's wallet setup, friend referrals. There's different stuff within here that you can kind of participate in. And there's a bunch of prizes, basically, at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure that there's 100,000 Algo grand prize. There's like a luxury vacation for 2. There's, I'm going to mispronounce the e-bike name. There's an F1 race. There's all sorts of stuff, but not airdrops. And what's really cool about Algorand and the tech here is, and this is a soft plug here from Genfinity's, and I'll put my Genfinity hat on. All of this stuff is on chain. So they like even the winners, they have VRF, and that's kind of how the nodes select the next node consensus in the process. That's going to be the same thing with how they pick the winners here for a lot of this stuff, which is really freaking cool. So yeah, go check out algoland.co. I'll have a link in the description as well. If you guys want to use that link, that would be cool. We also saw crypto sell off. Oh, actually, I should have shared my screen here. I was not on screen. So here's algoland.co. If you guys are interested, here's all the quests that they have. There's like 13 weeks of this, a bunch of badges, and then there's info on how to get started for those of you guys that want to do your own digging in. And I just published an interview with Parawallet today, which is the biggest ecosystem or biggest wallet on Algorand. Again, that is not financial advice from my end. Genfinity does have a media relationship with Algorand. Market sell-off just happened as well. We can't ignore this. The market just had a $1.5 billion liquidation wipeout, the biggest flush since March. Over 400,000 traders got hit. Short-term pain, hopefully long-term infrastructure and building that foundation and gain. While leverage gets destroyed, we just talked about it. XRPL is adding compliance rails. They're building institutional grade DeFi. Algorand's rewarding adoption through a retail-focused campaign, and Hedera is basically exercising at the trust layer of artificial intelligence governance with huge entities like Accenture. This is why yield was kind of my narrative. And this isn't, the other thing with a tweet like this, this is on the heels of that Archax announcement last week too. I mean, we saw those pool tokens where you could literally basket together portions of a BlackRock fund, portions of a State Street fund, portions of, HBAR, portions of XRP, portions of XDC, whatever. Like literally, I think that we're heading towards a future that you're going to pretty much be able to do what you kind of want. Hopefully they don't gatekeep, the every man and every woman out of this stuff, because it's kind of the beauty of this stuff. I actually think it's going to be like a back to the future moment. I mean, like many of us that have been around since like earlier than 2018, but I was 2016, 2017 timeframe. I remember like micropayments were such a niche thing back in 2016, 2017. They didn't really like get widely adopted by, any protocol or anything like that. And now I'm starting to see more, pick up on micropayment stuff come back up again. I think it's going to be similar to like how tokenizing stocks, or no, not stocks, tokenizing like fine art or tokenizing like luxury goods and stuff like that, where maybe it was a little bit too niche for people to widely use. And now we're seeing kind of the institutions and enterprises come in and talking about tokenization of real world assets like stocks and bonds and treasuries and real estate and all this stuff. I actually think like 7-8 years from now, maybe even less than that, you're going to start seeing the tokenizing art and tokenizing music and tokenizing all the like the niche markets actually maybe take off a little bit more, because that infrastructure is going to be there with stocks and bonds and treasuries and everything else, which is kind of like a back to the future moment. We also saw BitGo file an IPO, revealing explosive revenue growth. You can go to genfinity.io to check out these articles here. Essentially H1, the first half of 2025, 4.19 billion in revenue. That's 4x year over year. From a custodianship standpoint, BitGo is custodying 90 billion plus in assets across 1 million end users. And then we saw Circle as well. Circle isn't just issuing USDC. They just announced that they are building the rails, additional rails themselves. And for those of you guys that need additional context, they announced this ARC blockchain built exclusively for stablecoin finance. Circle's second quarter USDC volume, $5.9 trillion with a T. Circulating USDC averages about $61 billion worth of circulating USDC. Quarterly revenue, 53% year over year, $658 million quarterly revenue. Pretty wild stuff here. And then finally, I want to give a shout out because I think this is cool. And again, I'll give the disclaimer. Genfinity has a media relationship with Constellation Network, but I think it's a cool practical thing. And for people that are on Twitter, they can probably use this too. This is digital evidence from Constellation. There's 1,000 proofs generated in a week, all from Twitter and X. So essentially, you know how there's always that issue of deleted tweets and everything else. You can tag Upsider, which is kind of the artificial intelligence metagraph here on Constellation, fingerprint a post, and essentially it becomes, living forever on the hypergraph. But I also want to give a shout out to these guys because from Genfinity's standpoint, we started doing, podcasts and stuff like that a couple of years ago. And I remember, I see like in crypto, just in general, these are just my personal thoughts, I guess. There's a lot of like communities that are like in ecosystems that they're kind of just pissed over like price action or whatever. And I get it. And I'm not saying that that's even the case here, but in general, I see that happen all the time. And then I think that sometimes like we forget to step back and look at how much shit has been built. And I know it's different depending on what network you're on. Every single network is different. Everybody has different benchmarks of success and everything else. But I remember when we started doing podcasts with Constellation and like, covering articles once in a while, there was no metagraphs. It was just DAG and it was just, kind of the layer zero. And I remember I think it was October of 2023 or November of 2023, their first metagraph went live. And I'm sure from their end, like, who even knows if like what a metagraph is it's essentially like it's like a layer one network. Like it's like its own blockchain, own consensus, all the other stuff. You can bake in whatever you want to. And that was Door. And now they've got the federal one, Door, Upsider, Alpaca, Common Crawl, National Digi Foundry, Toughbook, which is Panasonic North America, USDC, Packaswap, and Digital Evidence. So shout out to these guys. I mean, they've consistently built, and I thought it was, pretty cool that you can literally, I think it's a cool use case too. I think especially given the context of where we're kind of at with artificial intelligence, I think that, well, actually Lehman, I did an interview with Lehman Baird and I think it was John Woods, who's this former CTO of Algorand, like 7 or 8 months ago. And Lehman has said this multiple times, like with where AI is going, you're not going to be able to get around just digitally signing things to prove authenticity. You're just going to have to digitally sign stuff. Because deep fakes are crazy. The technology is just going to get better. There's not really going to be any way to authenticate stuff unless it's digitally signed and almost like, everybody agrees that a transaction exists on Bitcoin, or everybody agrees that a transaction exists on Hedera or XRPL. It's probably going to be the same thing with authenticity of data in the future. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know that this was a little bit of a longer video. Please go and check out this XRPFi interview. I thought it was a really good interview. I've been trying to be more concise with these. I know 39 minutes is a good amount of time, but it is pretty exciting. And again, not advice from my end. Certainly everything comes with risk. But what these guys are doing is, I think, pretty cool. And I think also very necessary for the XRP ledger to grow in the way that people think it's going to grow. Like I saw a post from one of the EZA guys, and I don't know what the market cap of XRP is right now. I don't even look anymore after however many years. But he basically said, and I can't remember if it was Phil or Dom from EZA. And if you guys aren't aware what EZA is, go and check out EZA. These guys are building out, onboarding lots of users and developers and all sorts of stuff across XRPL and multiple networks, Algorand, Flare, Solana, just tons of networks. It was either Dom or Phil anyways. And they said, XRP has gotten to this market cap really without a DeFi ecosystem. And it's almost amazing that that's what we're kind of looking at now. So their whole purpose of their tweet was, imagine what happens when DeFi does hit XRPL. And I think you could probably argue the same thing about Hedera. I think Hedera is, from a DeFi standpoint, maybe right now semi on par with XRPL, but I've always kind of liked that, watching that relationship between both of these ecosystems, because the communities, I feel like, think similarly. But I'm hoping that these utility driven networks that we all care about can really ramp up, from the DeFi stance, from the compliance stance, to kind of merge traditional finance and DeFi, and just really all across the board. All this innovation is really cool to see. I'm excited to see privacy on the XRP ledger as well. I'm excited to see some more stuff shake out of the Accenture, Equity Lab, Hedera, NVIDIA, Intel stuff as well. All that stuff I feel like ties in some strange way. But anyways, go check out Algoland as well. Not financial advice. Just, do your own digging into it. But I think it's a pretty cool initiative and a chance to maybe win some stuff. But I will talk to you guys when I talk to you. Check out this interview and have a great day. Later.